And what are we thinking this thing is that's running in the background?
Well, in short, the software that they've developed, this Jade 2, it's technology that will not be battles directed by generals and military commanders, but by a computer, right? The Jade 2 system is a network-centric, software-based AI program at the helm.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Now, how did you come to that conclusion without giving away the, everything?
I read it in papers that. Let me go back. This isn't actually my conclusion. I mean, everything that I'm going to be discussing with you here today is in the documents. And before we get into some of the specifics that this system is able to do and will be doing, I just want to say that the information that I had found on the net that we will be discussing has been highly sanitized.
Wow.
I believe it's been, because there's things that are not there that should be there when you're talking about a technical system like this that just they weren't available in the papers.
I see. So, well, just take us where you want to go.
All right. Well, why don't we start talking about what the J2 system is capable of, and we can go down this. And I hope this isn't too boring, but you can.
I'm thinking it won't be.
Okay.
So don't let that be a concern.
All right. This system uses vast sums of information collected on individuals, groups, population-centric regions, and large geographic areas and or countries. It then dumps all that information into a module called an HTA, which is a human terrain analysis tool, which then analyzes the data to develop an HTS, or human terrain system. Once the human terrain system is established, it determines, and this is going to start to get really hairy, okay? It determines behavioral parameters for norms of individuals, groups, population-centric areas, etc. The establishment of these formulated parameters is known as the human domain, which we've all been hearing about out there in the media and on the blogospheres and everything. It can then identify, extract, or eliminate perceived threats or targets based on deviations from these norms.
Interesting. Okay.
Jade can also examine the human terrain system over time with the use of thousands of remote sensors, both audio and visual, as well as real-time communication monitoring and other types of HTA tools to change or rewrite its program parameters in a particular human domain. This new information or program template, as well as any other previous program scenarios, is then stored in its Prodigy module, which is actually the battle planning suggestion module, and it can be retrieved at any time for any intended purpose. Now, as this is a knowledge-based or data-driven, mixed initiative, or military/civilian application, it's able to generate complex deployment and battle plans in seconds versus hours, days, or weeks. It can create holographic battlefield simulations on the fly. The deployment or battle planning with this system starts with the receipt of a mission statement, which is then run through a CBR, or case-based reasoning module, to produce an ACOA, or an adaptive course of action. The word adaptive is key. What's it adaptive to? It adapts itself to the changing human domain, us. It adapts its plans based on changing terrain of human activity. What are some of the elements that are classified as human activity? Okay, your communications, your financial transactions, your travel patterns, habits, behavioral patterns, emotions. Yes, this system can read and measure human emotion and social media content. Okay, the one paper goes on to say that activity can change rapidly in a crisis event or warfare scenario, and it's able to change or rewrite its own COA or course of action on the fly. The system is aware. It has total awareness, even in a rapidly changing environment.
Hold your place there. Let me ask you something. Where's the central input point for this data that results in these solution calculations?
From what I can ascertain, there is no central data input point. What I've been able to glean from all these papers and that is that these huge data dump centers, like the one in Blufftail and many, many other ones, are connected into this global information grid. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, the global information grid would be the central point on the network system.
Takes me a minute to get my mind around these things, but I'm with you. Keep rolling.
Okay. Now, format, which is the force management module for this system, was developed by the MITRE Corporation, and it's used to support knowledge acquisition. Okay, that's data collection. That's what the NSA is performing on everyone, not just identified threats, but everyone. Why? Because the government now perceives the American people, I believe, as its greatest threat, and it will use a computer-driven military to clamp us down. Patriots will be classified as terrorists, and the true terrorists, the U.S. puppet government we have out there who receives its directives and agendas from the ruling elite, they'll be deemed patriots to be protected at all costs.
Makes sense.
Okay, the third module in this system is known as PARCA. It's able to handle extremely complex structured queries against large knowledge bases or large databases, data dumps. Have you ever wondered why, or has anybody ever asked the question, why the NSA is telling everyone they're only collecting metadata or meta tags?
I don't even fully understand what those things are. If you'll define them and then ask that question again, it'll be easier for us to track with you.
Okay, meta tags or metadata contain virtually no information or data in and of themselves. Meta tags or metadata only have value if they're indexed to a much larger information source or file in these immense databases. So, this is, in my humble opinion, this is just another example of deception through misdirection. Oh, we're just collecting, your phone numbers you're passing by, and we're not keeping any of your emails or your text messages or anything like that. Well, if you look at how this system is structured, that's the critical data the system needs. It can't work off meta tags and metadata. I mean, they're virtually empty data until they're indexed to something or something is indexed to them. Does that?
Good Lord. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm with you.
Okay. J2 is, and hold on to your seat for this one. It's a self-reactive, self-adaptive, self-modeling program for predictive force deployment. In other words, it can predict conflicts before they occur and react in a preemptive manner. It only thinks, it thinks in the present, but it can predict future events or human activity. And these conflicts are not confined to a warfare scenario either. Excuse me. The predictive preempt capabilities can also be applied to scenarios of social unrest. And that's not just my opinion, that's stated right in the reports and the papers on this software.
Okay.
So let's look at some of the other key functionality or capabilities of this system. And right now we're just talking about the Jade system because that's what everybody's concerned about right now, Jade Helm. It can make high-level trade determinations. It makes decisions regarding casualties and targets in line with the overall mission objective. Okay? It is a total command. It has total command and control in an information-intensive society. Now, from a military standpoint, the term command is more or less a legal or a behavioral standard of actions performed or not performed by military officers to which they can later be held accountable. The Jade system displaces that standard from individual commanders and places it on itself. Total command and control of all information over land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace is how they will master the human domain. It says that in the PDF slides. It says that in the software papers. Okay? It can perform machine interpretation of commanders' intent. Think about that for a minute. Before, the system sits on a global information grid, which is how can I explain this? It's a flexible, scalable, and a dynamic architecture in order to support multilateral civilian and military operations. This global information grid is going to be an important aspect as we go through this. Okay? Oh, here was another subheading in one of the papers, and it was entitled "The Process of Sense-Making in Complex Human Endeavors." Quote, "This approach uses a set of cognitive constructs that translates tacit knowledge to the focal knowing of the objective world." End quote. How are they accomplishing this? They're mapping your mind. That's how they're doing it. And they are creating these maps with all of the information that's being collected on everyone regarding every aspect of their life.
The situation is much worse than you can possibly imagine. According to reports, the Obama administration unleashed some kind of Skynet program back in 2015. It was the parting gift when Obama left office. And when Trump took over, this thing has been working in the background, plotting against humanity ever since. And instead of rolling out Terminators, it's rolled out Death Towers. It doesn't need Terminators when it can beam you and shoot you with Death Towers. This Skynet system is real. It's called the J2 system, and it's part of the bigger Skynet system. But this has been rolled out worldwide to exterminate humanity and opposition, and to kettle in people for the assimilation. There's really way too much information to cover in this broadcast. This is really just an introduction to what's coming, but everyone should be aware of the transhuman agenda, and everybody should be aware of just how dangerous these death towers are, these cell towers that are around us. Just check out the power supply. It's basically a 25 megawatt power supply, just like these rail guns. And they're everywhere, targeting people right now. We're getting endless reports of people being targeted. It's been on the news. Many people have heard about it. You don't want to hear about it, but you need to hear about it because this is next generation warfare, and everyone is at risk. This isn't imagination. It isn't fiction. Look at what just a microwave oven can do. You can't imagine what these death towers can do. They can kill in seconds. They can mimic heart attacks and strokes. Energy weapons are way more advanced